Hi, this is Garrett Klingel, and you're listening to Mike Delivers with Mike Biseglia. I met Mikey B in 2010 when I first got into the radio business. He was one of our sportscasters. My favorite memory is definitely him calling University of Virginia baseball's only perfect game.
Here's the 1-1. It's a ground ball to Keith Werman. Scoops it up, throws to first. It's perfection! Will Roberts has thrown a perfect game for the Cavaliers.
And I sure do miss our daily debates between the Redskins and the New York Giants. You know, back then when the Giants actually had a competitive football team.
Need more Mike Delivers? Head over to Patreon.com or download the Patreon app and type in Mike Delivers. Get a full catalog of bonus podcasts like the one time Mike crashed his wife's 2007 Toyota RAV4, behind-the-scenes videos, and more food reviews. Go to Patreon and check it out now.
My name is Mike Biseglia. I'm 37 years old, and I use the Lawnmower 3.0. Use my promo code Mike Delivers, all one word, and you can get 20% off plus free shipping on your own Lawnmower 3.0. What is the Lawnmower 3.0? It is an electric trimmer that cleans your ball hair. I recommend it, I use it, and it's helped my life tremendously. As a 37-year-old that's feeling bad about himself because he turned 37 and the age has turned a corner, the best thing I have going for me right now is the Lawnmower 3.0. Use my promo code, Mike Delivers, all one word. You get 20% off. You can even have mine. You can have my used lawnmower 3.0.
Welcome inside Mike Delivers from his wife's 2017 Toyota RAV4. Here's your host, Mike Biseglia.
That's right. This is Mike Delivers, episode number 83. And I'm your host, Mike Biseglia. And I'm coming to you from my wife's office in Bloomfield, New Jersey. That's right. Move it on up as we get the 2017 Toyota RAV4 all revved up for deliveries and stories coming your way shortly. That's a tease, my friend. You can find this podcast where all major pods are found, including Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Leon Podcast Network. It's my cat who's kind of hanging with me right now. Hey, Leon, what's up, dude? And, of course, on Apple Podcasts. And if you go on Apple, please go ahead and give a 5-star rating and leave a comment. And I got to give a shout-out to everybody out there listening because the Mike Delivers podcast has officially gone over 100 ratings. I don't know if that's good. Maybe I should not even be spewing that information, but I was excited to say that the Mike Delivers pod has now more than 100 ratings on Apple Podcasts. Also should note, with charts, the Mike Delivers podcast is number 164 in Canada for basketball-themed pods. This podcast isn't even really about basketball anymore, but we have a niche in the Canadian market. So, you know, shout out to all my brothers and sisters in Canada. Thank you for downloading the Mike Delivers podcast. Super cool. I love that. I'm excited for this episode. This is a really great interview. I think everybody will love. It is with Terra Carbert. She is the founder of the Career Mindset Coach. So she is a career coach, and she does an amazing job with. We'll talk about all that, and her information is in my show notes. But she's also a DoorDash and Grubhub driver, and she is in Minneapolis. So she's got some incredible stories to tell of what the last month has been like for her as a gig economy driver and what it has been like driving around Minneapolis and what has been one of the most turbulent times in the history of our country. So I'm really excited for everybody to hear my conversation with Terra as we talk about being a driver in that area, talk about the importance of Minneapolis, and, you know, also all the great stuff she is doing with her career. So I'm really excited for everybody to hear my conversation with Terra that's coming up in a matter of moments. You've heard me talk about it before. The Patreon page is growing, getting more members where people are excited to find out how I destroyed my wife's car. That's in there. And then a full catalog of episodes. So If you want to hear about the Taco Bell drinks and desserts, there's only one place to find it. It's Mike Delivers on Patreon. That's patreon.com. Type in Mike Delivers. It's all there. Big shout out to the O'Brien Creative Group. They're the guys that made my amazing, creative, unbelievable looking logo. My podcast really would not be the same without the O'Brien Creative Group. It would have a very different feel. And besides the logo being awesome, they've helped me out with brand identity. So I think as the Mike Delivers podcast develops and keeps going, you've heard me talk about it with these guys. They've really just given me the sense of like I belong. And I appreciate them and their hard work. So if you're interested in getting a logo and if you're interested in building your brand, I highly recommend the guys at O'Brien Creative. Head over, again, to my show notes. Information on there for everybody. This podcast is a couple of directions I want to go with what I want to talk about today. So, twofold. I'm going to be giving you deliveries and stories from the road. Those are going to be coming shortly. So, I know people have asked me, like, hey, the delivery story is coming. They will be here shortly. I promise you. But right now, just developing some more awesome interviews. And then, of course, the food reviews with my wife. But the stories from the road will be coming back shortly. So, just hang tight in there. Also, this is episode number 83, which means episode 100 is just around the corner. So, I'd love your input too, guys. If there's somebody you think that would be a fun interview for episode 100, somebody special that would really, I don't know, get the sense of what this podcast is and where it's come from. And I'll do a little bit more of this as we get to episode 100. But just to think about episode 1, and like it was called Basketball Drives, and it sounded like shit, and just how far it has come, and the actual amount of attention that it's gotten, and the news that it's made, and the downloads are going up, and I think back to a lot of it. I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's been here since day one, and everybody that's joined in the mix, in the fun. It's been really cool, and it's almost been like a certain community has been created. Finding all these different Uber Eats drivers, DoorDash drivers, Grubhub drivers, and I love, as you can hear coming up with Terra, it's fun interviewing people that are also drivers. It's fun interviewing people that get food delivered to them. It's like, it's such an essential part of our lives, food, and that's why I think I'm so passionate about it and passionate talking about it. So I love hearing people's stories about how food influences them. If that's as a driver themselves, or it's somebody getting food ordered to them, or it's Dean Blandino talking about how food was a culprit for instant replaying being down on Thanksgiving. All of this comes from food. And, you know, during this pandemic, it's really changed the way delivery has been functioning. I mean, you heard my conversation with Andrew Borick of Lunchbox. Food delivery is dominating right now. I mean, because people aren't going out, and I know things are opening up slowly and slowly. But I don't want to say for the most part, but as this pandemic, hopefully, you know, knock on wood, kind of eases out and moves away, and we get a more sense of what life is really like, I still think there's going to be lingering of deliveries, like. And this is totally up to people. If you want to go out and you want to go to restaurants, God bless you. That's up to you. But there's going to be a certain amount of people that don't want to do that. I mean, there's going to be people that say, hell no, I'm not going to a restaurant. I'm not going out. I want the food being brought to me. So I think there's going to be more, although like the food delivery was going crazy probably a couple months ago, it's still going to be pretty nuts. And I still think people are going to be into it. So the business is booming on the side of that for food delivery. So putting this all together, my point is there's like a community out there for me to talk to different drivers, talk to different people ordering food, as food delivery, as simple as it sounds, is really now become this huge market. And it's crazy to think like my podcast is about food delivery. That's kind of like at the crux of it. That's what it's about. It's about food and food being delivered to your house. And food being delivered to your workplace and everything that goes involved to it. Is it cold? Is it hot? Was the service good? Are people making money as drivers? Are customers pissed off when the food's coming to them? The stories from the road that I talk about. It all stems from food delivery. And this pandemic, what it's done is that it has sped up the way we think about ordering food, getting food delivered to us, and there's going to be more and more people that do it, which is just a wild time. So all of that kind of in the back of my head, just kind of churning in my mind. The Mike Delivers community has grown and is being built. And we're really seeing a nice amount of different people interacting with me. I love when I hear from different people talking about foods. It's really cool. If you want to get in touch with me and if you have any questions about the podcast, feel free to reach out on social media. You can do that in a couple of places: Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all one handle at Mike Delivers Pod. You can find me there. If you have any questions, any food recommendations, I'd love to hear it. As we hit the mid-June into July months, it is good to see more people out and about. I mean, that's just awesome to see. And hopefully as that trend continues and we can all be safe and we can all be smart and we can continue to do things in the right way and with the right direction. So that's my little opening monologue here on the Mike Delivers Pod. Episode 84 is coming out on Thursday with my wife and I. We get more into Taco Bell. This time we go to some of the classics from my college time, the steak quesadilla. Yes, my wife and I go 75 minutes about a steak quesadilla. Crazy the amount of time that the Taco Bell has given us. And I've really learned a lot about Taco Bell. I knew not that much, and now I feel like I'm a complete expert. And I've had some fun with it, and I'll be honest, it's not my favorite place in the whole world, but I've definitely learned the lingo for Taco Bell is very different than anything I've ever seen before, and their menu is fucking wild. So I now feel like this, like a Taco Bell savant, the more and more I have some of this shit from this place. So with all that said, excited to get to my interview. Again, here I had a chance to talk with Terra Carbert. She is the career mindset coach. Highly recommend checking out her website. Information in my show notes. She's a DoorDash driver. She is a Grubhub driver, and she is in Minneapolis. Here's my conversation with Terra Carbert.
It's the Mike Delivers podcast, and if you've been listening to this podcast, you know I enjoy talking to people all across the country, Uber Eats drivers, DoorDash drivers, people in this gig economy. I get a real kick out of it. I think it's really cool for everybody that can listen in on this podcast. If you're a delivery driver, if you're somebody that gets food delivered to your house, or you're just interested in on how all of this works, it's really fascinating. So I've kind of gotten into this little Twitter world where I like to see how other people are doing, try to connect with other people, and I think it's really cool. And somebody that I just connected with is Terra Carbert, and she is a DoorDash and Grubhub driver, but way more than that, and she's doing some really cool stuff with her business that she's getting going with the Career Mindset Coach. So we'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about how she is using these different gig economies to help out in the world and what she is doing as well. So Terra, thank you so much for jumping on the Mike Delivers podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here and appreciate the work that you are doing and the entertainment you provide while I'm on the road.
Well, that's cool to hear. So somebody that I just did Uber Eats about a year ago, and I did it because at the time I was working a morning show and I had this whole afternoon free and I wanted to do something extra and I had all this energy. And lo and behold, I ended up doing Uber Eats, and it's really opened up the world to me on a lot of different avenues for meeting people. And it's been a lot of fun. I weirdly enjoy doing it. Maybe I'm on a weird landscape of that, but what's been your overall vibe and feelings of doing DoorDash and Grubhub?
Yeah, and I'll add, I actually started gig work with Shipt, which is grocery delivery. And I tell people all the time, like, I had no idea how fulfilling the work would be in terms of reach to the community and impact on individuals' lives and businesses' lives now that we're getting into, now that I've gotten into the restaurant, because since COVID happened, I've made a personal decision for my safety to just focus 100% on food delivery and stay out of the grocery stores.
No, I understand that. I mean, that's been kind of a weird twist and turn to all this has been COVID and how it has impacted people and businesses and delivery drivers. So how different has it been since COVID has hit and you're in the Minneapolis area? How different has it been as far as orders that come in? The amount of orders, the timing, how has everything shifted and changed since COVID-19 started?
So pre-COVID-19, I would say I was earning the most money doing Shipt and bringing people groceries. And I suppose, people spend more on groceries many people spend more on groceries, not everybody,
Right.
than they do on a takeout meal. And I shifted my focus, as I mentioned, for personal safety. And as COVID hit, my earnings skyrocketed. And one of the really cool things that I saw happen in my own community was this kind of outpouring of support for the smaller restaurants. And suddenly I was going to restaurants that I'd never heard of, ma and pa, quote, hole in the wall, neighborhood favorites, and getting to know the owners, and getting to know just all these new places I'd never even heard of with foods I'd never tried. So that's been really cool. The other thing I'd say is just the difference in the pickup and the drop off and the entire experience with mask versus no mask and interaction versus no interaction. Interestingly, the response by the two that I'm working for, Grubhub and DoorDash, has also been a little bit different in terms of what they offer us for personal safety. So one gives us free equipment and the other one has us buy it.
I'm curious. So one's giving you this because they kind of want you to be proactive and be smart, and the other one is not. And I guess then you'll just obviously use both for both platforms.
Yeah. I mean, I got mask and sanitizer shipped at no charge to me twice already. So they're replenishing it also by Grubhub, and DoorDash did not offer that to us at no charge. I didn't even look into it since Grubhub was giving it to me for free. I didn't even look into what DoorDash was offering, but I think maybe they're only charging for shipping, but you don't quote me on it, even though we're on record.
No, absolutely. No problem at all. And you mentioned sort of the mom and pop restaurants, and for them, they're in this position where they have to do this because things start to change in this country. And people are getting out and about a little bit more, but, can't go inside restaurants. They now have to adapt and, put themselves out there on these third-party apps like Grubhub, Uber Eats, and DoorDash, et cetera. So, it's cool to see that you're getting to interact with some of these restaurants and go to these new places. You mentioned a bunch of them. Is there one that stood out to you the most? You're like, I really want to try this cuisine.
Yeah, there's several. I mean, I've got a running list of them, but
that's good.
In particular, given the time that we're in right now, in Minneapolis, there's this one that I just went to the other day called Pimento Jamaican Kitchen. And as we experienced our protests and civil unrest in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, this place became a hub for both donations and for distribution of goods that the community was going to need, given some of the resources locally that were accessible to them were now destroyed. That place in particular is one high on my list because of how they've served the community. I love Indian cuisine, and so I have like 7 different places now that I want to try.
That's cool.
When you walk in the door, and I love the smell of curry. So there's one in this kind of more upscale area of our city called Edina, and it's called Raag. It's RAAG. And every time I go there, the owner he greets me by name. He's so expressive in gratitude that we are there to bring his food to the community that wants to support him, and big smile on his face. And so that's definitely a place that, when I can get a big group of gals together for a girls' night, we're going there.
You're right. That's super cool. And like for me doing deliveries, I love that when I find a new restaurant, I'm always super excited about it. I'm a food geek, so I like that. And I'll try any food really, except I hate eggs. So that's like the one thing I don't want to eat, but I'll eat anything else. I really mean that. So I get super geeked out and excited when I find these new restaurants. Now the problem for me is I get like this food anxiety where I'm like, I've got to try this place. I have to try this place. And realistically, that's impossible based on the amount of time in the day and the amount of money I have in my wallet. But I feel for you and I understand that excitement. That's super cool. So it has been an unbelievably horrific last month in Minneapolis with what happened with the murder of George Floyd, and then the protests going on, which, well, well-deserved in a sense of having to go out there and protest for the lives and Black Lives Matter moment, which is so important in our country right now. But as a delivery driver, what has it been like for you driving around the streets of Minneapolis? And, from a driving standpoint, have you noticed stuff on the road? Has it been more difficult to execute, to go to restaurants? And what has that perspective been like?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, 24 hours before George Floyd was killed, I was at Cup Foods picking up an order. So it hit really close. When you're like, I could have been there, that it hits you in a totally different way. The biggest impact was that first, several days where the unrest in our community was so great, and the amount of people overwhelmed our law enforcement, we'll just call it broad stroke, and our governmental leaders, and the curfews were enacted, and there was kind of like no communication other than, hey, we're shutting your market down early or we're not. And even the city, it was clear that the city of Minneapolis and the city of St. Paul had a curfew, but the outlying suburbs, you didn't really know, what they were doing. And so it was hard to know, can I even work a full night shift, especially on those days where curfew was 8 and then curfew was 10. And so many cities and really good restaurants border the city itself of Minneapolis.
Right.
Or there's, a zone, a DoorDash zone that goes into both a suburb and Minneapolis. So it was kind of hard to know when to work or not work. The pay was insane, like promo money every day, every order, because there was a group of people who didn't want to go out at all. And then there was also this group of people who, myself included, like I didn't work for 3 days, who were emotionally consumed with wanting to be part of the solution to the challenges we face as a community, and or give back, and or go clean the streets. Like it was all encompassing for many people in our community to both be there and in that space and contribute to the cleanup after all of the destruction that happened following George's murder. And now we're seeing that, unfold in so many other cities across the country. It's been, I would say, also impactful in terms of my focus. So I made my first double mistake. I'd never done it before, where I gave customer A customer B's food, and then, I get to customer B's door and I'm like, oh, what did I do? Really gotta be a little forgiving with yourself. You got a lot going on in your head right now,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been, I would say things have mostly settled, but those days where we had the National Guard presence and you're rolling down the street and there's tanks, right at the corner, there's destruction. Your city looks like a war zone. It's kind of jarring.
And you were so people were still doing deliveries during all that. So, it just seems like such a juxtapose, and I'm here picking up this order to deliver to somebody, and at the same time, the National Guard's on the street. So you were experiencing that as a driver.
Yeah, they were around during the day too. I had I was following the curfew orders because I was really confused as to whether or not I could be delivering. In the first day or two of curfews, the phone was blowing up with alerts that, it's busy. You can earn an extra $6.50 per delivery or whatever. Wow. And can I? I don't know. I don't even know what's legal right now.
So sorry to interrupt you then. So was the Uber Eats, or not the Uber Eats, but for you, DoorDash and Grubhub, were they not, I guess, obviously they were on a different schedule than what the government had in place in a curfew. So you could turn the app on and it would work, but technically you weren't allowed to leave.
Right. And I don't even know, because it was like, you can drive to and from work. And I'm like, okay, well, is delivering food work? And are the restaurants going to be open? And DoorDash pays you for a canceled order, but Grubhub does not. And actually, Grubhub just sent an email the other day. They're going to start for canceled orders if restaurants are closed early to observe curfews. They're like a week late with that in my market, because now the restaurants are actually extending hours. Our stay-at-home order has been modified, and things are, opening up later.
Right.
But in the first couple days, I literally got sent to a burnt down building.
Was that a restaurant, or you got
It was
sent
a
to
Popeyes.
and it was just not there?
Oh my God. It was literally not there.
That is wild. I mean, see, it's like, to me, I'm just thinking in my head, and I've done all these deliveries, and just the simplification of trying to go to a restaurant and then you see that there's not there. I mean, that's just, I mean, what was that moment like for you when you went there and saw that, and you're trying to do a delivery, but at the same time, you're looking at the city you love, and just everything that was going through your head in that moment?
Yeah. I mean, emotionally, it's jarring. And I would say I experienced the same thing while doing Shipped. One of the stores I frequently was shopping, almost exclusively shopping, was Target. And when COVID hit and people were panic buying, I had that same emotion where you're kind of it's a knot of emotions. It's panic, it's fear, it's sadness, it's anger. It's like all these things wrapped up in a bundle.
Yeah.
And it's, you need to take the time to process that. And with Target, it was like I would walk in and I had 3 orders in one day during the panic buying, and I would see the empty shelves, like just barren, like nothing there. And that emotionally was like, I just can't, right? I don't want to, because then I'm getting scared and I'm getting panicked, and I know damn well toilet paper is not going to save my life from a viral pandemic. So and the same, it was that same kind of feeling inside of just this like despair and helpless. And it was like a knot. I don't even know how else to describe it, but when I spend a lot of time on processing emotion as an individual, and it's something I teach in my coaching, but look, kind of one thread at a time, you got to pull apart, like, what am I thinking that's creating the sadness? What am I thinking that's making me feel angry? And all those emotions are there when you see much of your city, many of the places, are a hub for the community, just gone. And also at the same time, like, yeah, I get it, like,
right.
Not to insert my own opinion about what happened, but it's hard not to have empathy for the rage. Yeah. No,
I mean, that's a lot going on to be delivering to be picking up and delivering during that time. I mean, you're watching, I'm in New York, New Jersey, and I'm watching this on TV, and you're watching history in the moment. So I can't even put myself in the idea of being a delivery driver in that time. It is even almost like a surreal thought to even think of. Then you put out there on Twitter, which I thought was cool, and you had talked about this on the phone with me before, waiting around for a restaurant that had a nice payout, but you had a really good experience as a 2-hour wait, but one as a delivery driver you said was well worth it.
Yeah. So in terms of what the payout was, I actually earned $83 with that one stop. And that's the restaurant that I mentioned earlier, the Pimento Jamaican Kitchen, that had served the community so well. So I was willing to wait. Originally I got the order and it was $45. And I was like, okay, I'll wait because it's this place. And I had been there 2 days earlier, and inside behind their doors, I'm not kidding, floor to ceiling, diapers, sanitizer, Gatorade. Like, they were a hub for donations, and they had closed down to store them there and chose not to make money, but to serve the community in a different way without their kitchen, but using all the square footage in their restaurant to store supplies and become a distribution hub for the community. I was like, okay, I'll wait. Like, this is my, that's like, happy to wait at this place. Somebody wants to support this business. So I communicate, it was a double order. I communicate with my customers like, hey, I'm hearing in the line, it's going to be at least an hour. And they treat the drivers just like every other customer in line. So you get up to the counter and then they assemble the order. It's a buffet style restaurant. And,
gotcha.
And so I like, okay, I communicate with the customers. One of the customers decides to drop. So I get in touch with customer care and they cancel that order. And right after that order cancels, they send me another double. So I know if the double is 45, probably one of them's paying around 20 and the other one's paying around 25. And so and then I get another order from them and it's another double. So now I'm at 3 orders and that one's 60. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm definitely waiting. And now my willingness to wait went from 1 hour to 2 hours. And thank goodness it did, because I needed that full 2 hours. They were that busy.
Wow, that is insane. Is that the highest payout you've had for a pickup?
Yes, it's also the longest I've ever waited for any food, even as a consumer.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Wait that long for anything.
I'm trying to think. Right, exactly. I'm trying to think the longest that I've waited for one, probably 10 to 15 minutes. But there comes a point where different times though. For me, and picking up at some random restaurant in New Jersey, and it's obviously a different experience for what you're going through and what you're doing, so all very different purpose. Let me ask you on the lighter side of things, as a driver, when you hear somebody say it's going to be 5 minutes, do you believe that it'll really be 5 minutes?
That's one of those things I think really comes with experience, as most of the gig worker drivers emphasize in their teaching of us. I think it's the Master Dasher. It was like, it's a steep learning curve, right? So it depends where I am. If it's a Chipotle in a city called Golden Valley, absolutely not.
Right.
But if, for the most part, they're usually, trying to be honest with you. I always just weigh it. I mean, this is a business for me. So I always weigh it against my time, profitability. Like, does this make sense? And that one order, it made sense because I wanted to be part of somebody supporting that business. So I chose not to care about the money. It just worked out the money, the math of the money. It's like I stood in the same place and I made as much, if not more, than I would have on the road. And miles. Almost no miles, right? 3 drop-offs.
Totally. Now you have to play that game in your head, and you have to do the math of what's the smart decision. The one thing I've noticed now, is the guy that says it's going to be 4 minutes and not 5, and I think that's his way of saying, when you say it's 5 minutes, I could understand if you're going to take that as I'm just lying. But if I tell you 4, you have to take me seriously, because who would make up 4 minutes? But then I noticed it's still 15 to 20 minutes. So it's just like the cool new way of saying 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've had a couple where there's, do you guys have Shake Shack in Jersey?
We do. Yeah, they were started in New York. So yeah, we've got them all over here.
Okay, so there's a Shake Shack here, and I just yesterday, they're like, oh, it's going to be a few minutes. I'm like, okay. And sometimes their few minutes is 10. It's never been 30 minutes at this one. And they literally handed me the bag like 45 seconds later. I was like, oh, hey, okay, that's not a few minutes, thanks. And I was like really happy with that. So I think it's probably the same as with tippers, right? Like the 5 minute people sometimes are going to be the equivalent of your no tippers, and sometimes they're going to be the equivalent of your my tip is the equal of my order value tippers.
Right. How have you noticed tipping in general during the pandemic? Has it been up, down, about the same?
Definitely up. Yeah.
People are being a little more generous and understanding of the situation.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I suppose I can. Your wife's a scientist, isn't she? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so she'll appreciate that. So I can't necessarily draw like a cause and effect relationship, because there were variables, including my maturity as a driver and learning how to be a bit more judicious in what I take and what I don't take. So I probably was taking more obvious no tip orders previously. And
Gotcha.
After doing my own learning, I'm 3 more months into post-COVID. So I mean, my gut, which is really not scientific, says it's up, but I don't know if that's just me really being much smarter and selective about what I'm willing to drive for.
There is something, I mean, and I think my biggest weakness as a driver is just the idea of I get it, I take it, I go. And just saying, like, I'm going to take everything I get and move, instead of saying, you know what, let me say no to this order. Let me wait 3 minutes. Then it'll be maybe from a place that's a giant order, bigger dinner. They're going to tip more and play out that game. I need to personally get better at understanding that, as opposed to I hear the ding and I just like, okay, I got to take it. I got to do it. But there is something to that. Like if you're picking up just like you go to Burger King, you're picking up a $6 sandwich, the tip's not going to be good. And it's just based on, typically people tip on the size of the meal and the order amount. So I think there's something to that and being smart with that. And it's good to hear that, a couple months in, you figured out what to take and what not to take, because I haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, I have some kind of firm rules, because I would rather sit in my car and write or read or watch something than lose money on a drive. So if it doesn't pay $1.50 per mile or more, I'm not taking it. When it's busy or there's promo pay, I adjust for that, and it might become $3 a mile. And I'm tightening up the where I'll go to, how far I will drive, unless the drive drops me right into another hot zone area. So I've just become a lot more strategic about how I approach the delivery, because I have other work I can be doing in the idle time.
Like, that's why I enjoy talking to different drivers too on this podcast, because I think gathering notes and talking to different people, there's a platform to just help everybody, like almost like a guide to it. And the more you do it, you realize a lot of these pickups, it's a weird game. And if you can crack the code a little bit, you can make a lot more money.
Right. And I'm probably 90 days into exclusively being, not exclusively, but to playing around with the actual food delivery apps, until I really kind of embraced, the AR is bullshit. It's just not, like, they can't, and learning about the court cases that ultimately, created decisioning that if there's, that a deactivation policy needs to be published, needs to be clear. You can't just deactivate us because we refuse non-profitable orders. This is our business. If you want us to be independent contractors, we have every right to say no to your baloney orders.
How about DoorDash and then Grubhub? Do you pick one per day? Are you on both at the same time? How do you delineate between using the different apps?
They get to compete. So I'll go on active status for both of them, waiting for a delivery. DoorDash you have to accept. So Grubhub gives you more time to accept. DoorDash you have to accept pretty quick. But if my drop rate, meaning if I haven't, accepted an order and then left and then abandoned it, is at an okay level with DoorDash, I'll accept the DoorDash. And if Grubhub comes through with something that pays better, is more profitable, or a more appealing order, I will drop the DoorDash, go inactive, and do the Grubhub order. So it's kind of like whoever, in that moment is offering me the best opportunity to maximize my profitability is who I'll defer to, unless there's a steep enough penalty for me that I'll just take turn the other one off and take the existing order. But for the most part, I can have them both running and just choose. I do a lot of declining. So I just decline until there's something that actually looks like it's competing with the other one.
Gotcha. Is Uber Eats in your area? Have you thought about using it, or is it not offered where you are doing deliveries?
I think it's offered. I've been thinking about it. There's this sort of like, well, how much can I handle? How many apps can I keep square in my head? And do I want a learning curve with another when these are serving me well enough? It sounds like the averages for all of them, run about the same, anywhere from $20 to $35 an hour, depending on, what time of day and if there's promo pay available. I'm hearing that same message from everybody on every app. So I don't know. Maybe I'll add them. I mean, we can get deactivated at any time without really being warned. And they might just decide to exit our market, right? So it would make sense for me to at least get active, but I haven't done it yet.
I liked Uber Eats, and it's the only one. I can't even remember what. I first tried to get onto one of them, and it wouldn't allow me because it said it had too many drivers in the area. So getting on Uber Eats was super simple. And what I liked about Uber Eats, and still do, is it's my schedule on off. I don't have to block out time. So I could put on the app at any second and be on the road minutes later.
Yep.
And then I could turn it off when I want. So I could, if I had some other work I had to do for CBS or some other stuff I wanted to get done, I could just turn it off and on and not have to worry about being on a schedule, which I liked about it. And I've just been too scared to try the other ones at this point. So I'm kind of just an Uber Eats guy. Yeah,
the same is true for Grubhub, although you get, quote, better orders if you're on the schedule. It doesn't seem to matter much if it's busy enough. Like the day that I got that huge order, the one we were just talking about, where
right.
I waited forever, but I wasn't on the schedule. I was just active.
Right.
So that one you can slide on, and DoorDash just needs to be quote unquote busy enough. But you can, at least in a market like mine, and I imagine Jersey is even busier, you can usually get on the schedule within 15 minutes of where you're at. They let you start 15 minutes early or be 15 minutes late.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Well, what I love too about people that are doing, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, and you had mentioned to me as well when we were talking beforehand, and you touched on it a little bit about your career coaching and helping out people. And you gave an example earlier when you were in Target and you were talking about you were feeling emotions, and then you started to kind of like peel back the layers to see why you were at this point. And I got to be honest, when you said that, I hate this, but I get this like Sunday anxiety. I've had it my whole life.
Yep.
So my first thought was, the second we're done with the podcast, I'm going to use that technique to try to feel why I'm feeling some of these emotions in this moment. So tell me about what you're doing with the career mindset coach, because I'm really curious to hear about it. And I've already trying to use some of the examples you were giving from before in one of your stories where you probably weren't meaning to help me out, but it did in a weird way.
Yeah. So I left corporate America a couple of years ago to start a recruiting business, actually focused on recruiting for construction, manufacturing, and engineering type roles, with an emphasis on using part of my profit to elevate and amplify the voices of women in highly male populated fields, the fields I was recruiting for. In my corporate world, I'd done a lot of work in diversity recruitment strategy and execution, and it was like the same, I'd come up with the same list of 100 things to do, and they would pick the same 5 every time, and we weren't really moving forward. And I would have been able, but emotionally, I was not yet ready to be my authentic self, as they say, while under the label of a corporate brand. And I felt a bit like I was living hypocritically against my values, working for really big organizations and kind of just scratching the surface of some of these diversity and inclusion efforts as it related to recruiting. So I got pretty passionate about that, and I went full bore into that. And then my business hit a financial, I shouldn't even say my business did it. I did it. I made choices that impacted the revenue in my business. I had spent ahead of revenue, and I kind of ended up at this crossroads of like, oh my gosh, I just failed, right? And I had become a member of a life coaching, kind of self-coaching program, really affordable. And I learned this model from, and I have to give her all credit, a woman named Brooke Castillo. She runs a podcast called The Life Coach School. And she taught it, and I applied it, and I applied it, and I applied it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so true. So here's the long version of the answer to your question. Is your circumstance or the situation in your life is totally neutral. It's just a thing. You strip it out and you make it about the facts. And then you ask yourself, what am I thinking about this? It is our thoughts that create our emotions. And as humans, we get to choose what to think. So if we're feeling something like anxiety, we have to sit down with ourselves and ask, like, what are you thinking? What's on your mind? And once you uncover the 1, 2, 3, there might be multiple thoughts in there creating anxiety. One, we've got to allow ourselves to feel it, like it's there for a reason. So we have to process that emotion. But once we know what's getting there, we can really challenge our automatic thinking, which are the patterns we've been thinking our whole lives, these shortcuts our brain have created for us, that we can then begin to unpack and go, oh, is that really true? Like my, hitting a financial roadblock, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. I'm a worthless person. Like, really? You're a worthless person because you had a business failure? Come on. Right. So that, and those life coaching principles I've now married up with career coaching to help people understand what mental roadblocks may be standing in the way of them either even knowing what they want or achieving the success that they want in their lives. And this journey started for me almost 4 years ago when I quit gambling. And so that I want to help as many people as possible achieve, success and kind of get over maybe self-imposed pain that they've created through their thinking and the way that their emotions have created the results in their life.
That's beautifully said. And I like Uber Eats a lot on Sundays because it's helped me, as I mentioned before, with like some of the Sunday stuff and the Sunday scaries and thinking about the week. Doing Uber Eats on Sundays has really helped even me out. And it's nice too. And then you look and you're like, oh, I made a couple $100. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And there's something, I don't know what it is, but there's something about getting on the road and your sole focus becomes, I have to go to this restaurant, pick up the food, focus on the order, deliver it to house, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It's strange. It's helped me use some of those techniques in a weird way and just zone out all the stuff that's been in my head and just focus on what the reality is in the moment has been fantastic for me.
Yeah. And then your subconscious can kind of work on the problem. And as we're driving, I mean, there's so much thinking happening. And when you're driving and you're focused on the road, you can be at least this is true for me, maybe not for everybody, but I enjoy driving also. I find it to be kind of meditative because the thoughts are just kind of going on. And every now and then you'll catch one and you'll be like, I didn't even know I was thinking about that. This is some old crap, like from 15 years ago that just popped in my brain. What's up? Why is that still there? Right. Yeah.
Well, what we'll do too is for people interested, Terra will put all this information in the show notes of this podcast. So, if they want to reach out to you or see what you're doing, I'll put all of that here in the Mike Delivers podcast. So, Terra, I appreciate you coming on. Really enjoyed some of the stories you shared and your journey there in Minneapolis. If you've listened to this podcast, there's 2 questions I end all my interviews with. So here we go. First one, best thing that you ate in the last 7 days from right now when we are recording this.
You're going to laugh at me. I have a new food obsession and it's the silliest thing. I wasn't really doing dessert much for a long time. And then I ordered the marble brownie from Domino's Pizza. It's the best thing I eat every week. If we're talking real food, there's a place up the street called Ariana Bistro, and their gyro is amazing. And I had it for the first time this week.
That was the best answer I've had on this podcast. The Domino's. That'll be something that my wife and I will have to try for our food reviews. I'm all about that answer.
Brownie. Yeah, you should add them to your sandwich contest. Go back to May.
Go back to May. Now that's funny. And then finally, 6 months from now, you're getting married. You're sending out your invitations. Am I on the invite list?
No, if I get married in 6 months, it will be a very small and intimate affair somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Honest answer. That's all I asked for. Terra, thank you so much for coming on the Mike Delivers podcast. That was fun.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Terra, for coming on the Mike Delivers podcast. Enjoyed our conversation. Love talking to all of these different Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash drivers all across the country. I love hearing their stories. It's a real thrill for me as a driver myself to hear other people's opinions, get their tips. I can't stress enough. how valuable that information is, especially if you're another driver. And even if you're a consumer and you just need to learn about how food's getting to your house, I think it's invaluable information. So thank you, Terra, for hopping on the Mike Delivers podcast. Greatly appreciated. This has been episode number 83. Episode 84 comes out on Thursday. My wife and I have a little more Taco Bell review. Don't forget as well the Patreon page, Mike Delivers on Patreon. For $4 a month, you can find out how I destroyed my wife's 2007 Toyota RAV4. And there's over 70 posts that include videos, blind food tasting reviews, other podcasts, video podcasts, Leon being funny, that's my cat. All of that is on there, the Mike Delivers podcast. You can get the extension on the Patreon page. Super pumped, too, because my guy Tom Izzo, who did the cartoon you saw, if you've seen it, it's on my social media page, of me and my cat Leon, and he made like a cartoon version of us. My guy Tom Izzo is doing a great, real cool surprise for the Mike Delivers podcast. That's all I'll say about it now, but I think it's something that everybody will really enjoy coming out in the future. So I'll get a little bit of tease. Can't give the full details, but you will see it on display on social media. So shout out to my guy Tom Izzo. Thank you for doing that. All right, this has been episode number 83. Episode 84 comes out on Thursday. TheProsClub.com. That's my podcast network. You can find the Mike Delivers podcast. Also, Real Talk Basketball with Rex Walters, Outside the Box with Mike and Leon, and Bad Weather Fans, and beer tastings with the Big O. Head on over to TheProsClub.com. That's where you can find that. This has been episode number 83. Food review coming up on episode 84. And stories from the road coming your way shortly. Stay tuned for that. It's the Mike Delivers podcast. We'll see you next time for episode number 84. Yeah. Oh. Hey, yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I want to dance. Clock strikes upon the hour, and the sun begins to fade. Still enough time to figure out how to chase my blues away. And the light of up till now, it's the light of day that shows me how. And when the night falls, the loneliness calls. Ooh, oh, I want to dance with somebody. I want to feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I want to dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me. Oh, I want to dance with somebody. I want to feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I want to dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me. Ba-na-na-na, da-na.